A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a significant escalation of regional tensions, Israel has launched airstrikes targeting Syrian government military units that were advancing toward the city of Sweida, a Druze-majority city in southern Syria. This military action comes amid violent ethnic clashes in the region and marks a rare direct confrontation between Israel and forces loyal to the Syrian government, currently under new Islamist leadership. The Israeli government has stated that its actions are aimed at protecting the Druze minority community in Sweida, citing deep historical and familial ties between Israel's Druze citizens and the Druze population in Syria. The military operation is also framed as a strategic move to uphold the demilitarization agreement in southern Syria, which seeks to prevent any buildup of weapons or troops near the Israeli border. The decision to strike Syrian targets was announced in a joint statement by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz. The statement explained that the strikes were ordered after Syrian military vehicles and weapons began moving toward Sweida during a surge in ethnic violence between Druze residents and Bedouin tribal groups. Following the attack on the Druze, the Israeli leaders said, "We instructed the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, to strike Syrian forces and arms convoys advancing toward Sweida." This came after an earlier warning strike, where Israel hit several Syrian tanks approaching the area. The Israeli Defense Forces later confirmed that a much larger assault had been launched targeting multiple sites. According to a senior Israeli defense official, the strikes were exceptionally large-scale and intended to reinforce Israel's long-standing policy of preventing any military buildup in southern Syria, especially movements seen as threatening the Druze population or Israeli national security. The recent wave of violence in Sweida began on Sunday, when Bedouin militants reportedly abducted a Druze vegetable vendor from a local market. In retaliation, Druze factions carried out counter-kidnappings, leading to armed confrontations that quickly escalated between both groups. These clashes rapidly spread into urban neighborhoods and surrounding areas, resulting in at least 99 reported deaths, according to the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. While these numbers have not yet been independently verified, they reflect the deadliest outbreak of intercommunal violence in Sweida in years. In response to the mounting bloodshed, the Syrian government sent troops into Sweida in an attempt to restore order. However, this deployment quickly triggered concerns among Druze leaders and Israel alike. Fighting briefly broke out between Syrian government soldiers and armed Druze factions, who have long held semi-autonomous control of Sweida and harbor mistrust toward the Syrian central government, especially under its current interim Islamist leader, Ahmad al-Sharaa, who replaced Bashar al-Assad in December 2024. On Tuesday, following Israeli strikes and pressure from community leaders, Syria's defense minister Mirhaf Abu Khazra announced a ceasefire, stating, "To all units operating within the city of Sweida, we declare a complete ceasefire after an agreement with the city's notables and dignitaries." Despite this declaration, tensions remain high. Local Druze leaders are divided. Some welcome the ceasefire and government presence, while others remain skeptical, fearing renewed oppression or forced disarmament. Many Druze religious leaders and spiritual elders initially called on fighters to lay down arms and allow the Syrian army to enter peacefully to restore law and order. However, not everyone agreed. Sheikh Hikmat al-Hydri, a senior Druze cleric, rejected the government's presence and instead issued a plea for international protection. He argued that the situation required external mediation, fearing that the Islamist-led government could eventually target the Druze population similarly to how other minorities were persecuted in previous years. The Israeli leadership emphasized that their airstrikes were not merely military actions, but part of a humanitarian and strategic mission to protect the Druze people in Syria and maintain the fragile security situation along the Israeli-Syrian border. The joint statement from Netanyahu and Katz noted, "Israel is committed to preventing harm to the Druze in Syria due to the deep brotherly alliance with our Druze citizens in Israel and their familial and historical ties to the Druze in Syria." Israel views the entry of Syrian military forces and heavy weapons into southern Syria as a violation of the deconfliction and demilitarization agreements established over recent years, especially since these agreements are meant to prevent any armed threats close to Israeli territory. The Israeli military stated that its strikes were carried out based on the directives of the political echelon, reinforcing the strategic nature of the operation rather than treating it as a one-off military engagement. This military intervention was also prompted by strong appeals from Israeli Druze veterans, who urged the government to take decisive action to defend their Syrian kin. The Association of Druze Discharged Soldiers and Reservists issued a statement saying, "There is an unending series of massacres, kidnappings, looting, and harm to innocent civilians, women, children, and the elderly alike." They called for both humanitarian and military assistance, suggesting that inaction would send a dangerous message to terrorist groups and weaken trust among Druze communities on both sides of the border. The new interim Syrian leader, Ahmad al-Sharaa, who replaced Bashar al-Assad last year, has been a polarizing figure. His Islamist policies and affiliations have raised alarms among religious and ethnic minorities, including Christians, Kurds, Alawites, and Druze. Many Druze residents fear that under al-Sharaa's rule, the central government could marginalize or even persecute communities seen as ideologically or religiously distinct. This fear has intensified in Sweida, which has long operated as a semi-autonomous zone with minimal interference from Damascus, especially during Syria's long civil war. Druze militias in Sweida have provided local security in the absence of government forces and now feel that disarming would leave them vulnerable to potential atrocities. As one resident, Amal, a 46-year-old Druze woman, stated, "We are not against the state, but we are against surrendering our weapons without a state that treats everyone the same." The situation in Sweida remains tense but temporarily calm under the declared ceasefire. However, the larger implications are clear. While the ceasefire may offer temporary relief, the future of Sweida and of intercommunal relations in Syria's southern regions remains uncertain. The role of international actors, especially Israel, will likely continue to shape the security dynamics in the weeks and months ahead. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.